Hey guys, in this lesson I'm going to show you how to create an auto-scaling group and an application load balancer, and we're going to do it using the AWS Command Line Interface, the CLI. Now it's pretty straightforward to do this through the console, and in this lesson I want to make sure that you understand operationally how to do this using the CLI. And we'll use Cloud Shell for our CLI. In the course download you will find this file, the create ASG ALB CLI. It's in the auto-scaling and ELB directory. So what we're going to do first is create a security group. We'll then create a launch template. We'll do that through the console. Then we'll come back, create our auto-scaling group, then our target group, load balancer and listener, and link it all up so that we have our instance running behind our application load balancer presenting a website. Alright, so the first command here is simply to create a security group. We'll give it a name, description, and it's going to be in US East 1. Then we're going to create two rules to authorize ingress access from any source to port 22 and port 80. So I have Cloud Shell open in US East North Virginia. I'm going to create my security group. That's done. We've got our ID here, so we're going to need that a bit later. Next, let's copy the first ingress rule for the SSH protocol. We'll paste that one in. That's done. You can see we have the rule ID and we have the from and to port as port 22. And this is the source, so any source IP address. Next, we'll do the same for port 80 for our web service. I've pasted that in. Let's run that command. That's it. Now we have our security group. So if we head over to EC2, go to security groups, we should now find, let's give it a refresh, our ALB EC2 access, and the inbound rules are port 80 and port 22 from any source address. Perfect. So now I'm going to create a launch template. Create launch template. I'm going to call it LT1. And that name is referenced in the code a bit later on, so you should call it the same thing. Then we'll come down to application and OS images. We're going to select the Amazon Linux 2 AMI. So we have our OS image selected. For instance type, I'm going to choose T2 Micro. I don't care about a key pair. If I do need to connect for administration, I'm going to use EC2 Instance Connect. Next, I'm not going to specify the subnet because we'll do that through the auto-scaling group. But I do want to select my existing security group, so I'm going to select ALB EC2 access. Then let's go all the way down to advanced details and right the way to the bottom, and here we're going to put some user data. You'll find this file also in the same directory, and this is the code that we're going to run at system startup. We're simply going to run an update, install the HTTPD daemon for Apache, so we have a web service, and then we're going to use this bit of code to echo the availability zone from the instance metadata into this bit of text that's going to appear on the web page. Alright, so let's just copy all of that code, paste that into the user data field, and that's it. So let's just check. We've got the Amazon Linux 2 AMI, got a T2 Micro, we've got our security group specified, and that's everything we need. So let's create the launch template. Nice and quick, that's done. Back in the file of our commands, we're now going to create our auto-scaling group. So we run the AWS auto-scaling, create auto-scaling group command. We give it a name. It's going to be called ASG1. The launch template is LT1, so that's the name specified here. For the min size, it's going to be 1, max size will be 3, and desired capacity is 2. So that means we should have 2 instances running. For availability zones, I'm happy with US East 1A and 1B. We now need the zone identifiers, so that's the subnet IDs for the subnets, the public subnets we're going to use in these two AZs. So let's go to the VPC management console and get those subnet IDs. Okay, let's head over to subnets in the VPC dashboard here. And I want to find the subnets in the default VPC for the availability zones US East 1A and 1B. So I can see I've got a couple of VPCs here. This is my default VPC. Okay, so this one here is 1A in my default VPC. And then this one here is 1B in my default VPC. So let me just check that. Yep, 1A and 1B, both in the default VPC. Great. So let's copy these one by one. Let's get the subnet ID of the first one. We'll paste that in here. Back in the console, I'll get the other one. We just check that I've selected the right one. I haven't. So let's just go back up to this one here. So this is my 1B subnet. Copy that subnet ID, and then let's paste that one in. So that is my command. I should be able to run this command now and launch my auto-scaling group. So back in Cloud Shell, I'll just clear my screen so you can see more easily. And let's just run this command. Okay, so that ran without any feedback, so that should be good news. Let's come back to EC2. We're going to pop down to auto-scaling groups. And we've got our auto-scaling group here. Let's go in and have a look at what's going on. Of course, you can always go into activity. In here, we can see that there's 2 instances being launched, and that's because we set the desired capacity to 2. So if we head up to instances, we should find 2 instances are being launched. Here we go. They're in a running state already. And so it shouldn't be long before those instances are launched and ready to serve the website. And we can always check that things are working correctly by just using the public IP. This should be accessible, so we should be able to find our website. And there we go. This one is working in US East 1A. Let's check our other instance. Copy the public IP address. Do the same thing. And there we go. We've got our website in US East 1B. So now we have our auto-scaling group created. The next thing to do is create our target group. For this, we need the VPC ID. I'm using my default VPC, so I'm just going to copy this VPC ID here. Make sure you're using the correct VPC that corresponds to the subnets that you selected before. Okay, let's paste that one in, and then we should be able to run this command to create our target group. Let's run this command in Cloud Shell, and now we have the target group. Now I'm going to copy the target group ARN because we need that in a couple of places. You will see in a couple of commands time, we're going to need the target group ARN here. So I'm going to paste it in here and also in this command here. So while I got it on the clipboard, let's just put that in. The next command is create load balancer, and we need to specify the subnet IDs. Now we used those before, so I'm going to copy them from above, put one in, put the other one in. This time there's no comma because we didn't use parentheses. And so you just specify them with a space in between. We also need the ID of our security group. Back in EC2, I'm just going to find the security group, select it, and on details, I'm going to copy the security group ID. Okay, now we have all of the information for the second command. So this one is going to create the load balancer, and we're specifying these 2 subnets in US East 1A and 1B. Back in Cloud Shell, let's run this command. And that's our load balancer created. And we can see the availability zones have been enabled as US East 1A and 1B with the subnets that we specified. We also have the correct security group specified as well. This is going to be a publicly accessible load balancer. We can see here that it's internet facing. The load balancer ARN is something that we're going to need. So I'm going to copy the load balancer ARN. And we'll need that for the next command. So I'm going to paste it in here. And you can see that there's another spot as well. So let's paste it in both locations. And let's come back up and have a look at the next command. So we ran the create load balancer, but we don't have a listener yet. So for the listener, we're providing the ARN of the load balancer. Protocol is HTTP, port is 80. Default action is to forward to a specific target group, and that's our target group called TG1. So I'm going to copy this whole command. Let's run this command, and now we have our listener. So we can see the listener ARN, the load balancer it's attached to. It's port 80 HTTP, and it's going to forward traffic to target group 1, TG1. We can see it here in the code. So the last thing to do to get all this working is to run this command, AWS autoscaling attach load balancer target groups, and then we specify the autoscaling group name, which as we know is ASG1, the target group ARNs, which we've already specified. So this one is going to attach the target group to the autoscaling group. So let's run this command. And that's all done. So hopefully we'll have a load balancer now with an auto-scaling group that's attached and some instances serving our website. So let's come back. First thing I'm going to do is go down to target groups, and let's check that our target group has healthy instances. So it says initial here. Let's refresh, and now they're healthy. So they passed the checks because the port is open, and we know that the website is running because we already did a test by connecting directly to the IP of the instance. So the next thing to test is connecting via the load balancer DNS name. So let's use the DNS name, paste that in, and of course we get a response. And if we keep refreshing, we're cycling between the 2 instances in the 2 different availability zones.